Vice President of Entrepreneurship at the Edward Lowe Foundation. For those of you who don't know us, we are an operating foundation, which means we give services in lieu of grants. This picture is actually of our foundation, 2,000 acres in Southwest Michigan, and Mr. Lowe's former home. Mr. Lowe invented kitty litter in 1947, and he left his home and a very sizable endowment to us to champion the entrepreneurial spirit and to help second stage businesses grow and get to the next level, as Barbara had said. Unlike small business, we have had to innovate or pivot, as the topic is of the discussions today, to stay relevant. Obviously, this year has been difficult for all of us, small business in particular, taking one of the biggest hits. As supporters of what we call second stage, those who have 10 to 99 employees and 1 to 50 million in sales, we felt that blow along with our audience. So we asked ourselves during this time, how can we help and how can we serve? Thankfully, we are very fortunate to have very strong relationships with our partners across the nation, GrowFL being one of them. I remember being on a GrowFL advisory board call earlier this year, and Dave Carrier and Nancy Cruz, both second stage entrepreneurs who happen to be on this call today, were on the call, and they were having a sidebar conversation about how the pandemic was affecting their businesses. So it gave Tammy and I an idea. We thought, well, we need to create some kind of forum, or we called it CEO COVID-19 roundtables, dedicated to discussing these challenges that these entrepreneurs were facing, as opposed to them trying to fit these conversations in between the raindrops. So we started our first call, and we quickly determined that our previously structured format was a little bit too clunky, and it needed to be more fluid to facilitate the conversations that the entrepreneurs needed to have. So our business psychologist, who's pictured here, Dino Signore, came up with a way to accommodate them on the fly and figure out a way to facilitate those conversations. In one instance, one of the discussions, one of the roundtable members shared useful and hard-earned insight on how she was able to secure the coveted PPP funding. So it actually ended up helping another one of the entrepreneurs navigate that difficult road and secure funding herself, which ended up potentially saving her business. It was really, really powerful. The 3-month tables were over, and then the entrepreneurs wanted more. So again, Dino and our team created a new leadership retreat delivered virtually called Leading Through Challenging Times. Most of the roundtable members were able to move over to this virtual retreat and experience that program, but they wanted more at the end of that program. So we started a mentor program called the American Academy of Entrepreneurs, which is a one-to-one mentor program that provides our audience with additional support from entrepreneurs who have been there and done it. And I thank Paul and Tammy, Paul from the High Tech Corridor, who's on the call, for co-funding that program and making it available to our Florida entrepreneurs, some of which who are on this call today. So it's good to see you all. Mr. Lowe was no stranger to challenges. He broke through what he called many brick walls in his lifetime and in his business. At this point, I would like to turn it over to our president and COO, Dan Wyant, to tell you more about Mr. Lowe and his story. Our hope is that his life and his legacy will be an inspiration to you. Dan?
Hey, Colleen, thanks. And hey, cheers to all of you on the call. Barbara, Jack, thanks for your leadership. Putting this program together, Tammy, your team, and Colleen setting this up. So I do want to take just a moment to share Ed Lowe's story. I think it may be instructive and you could draw some inspiration from it. As we talk about this unprecedented certainty that we're dealing with, and certainly disruption. This is an opportunity that maybe you can draw some inspiration from that story. I mean, look at what we're dealing with: a pandemic, a recession, social unrest and then this national election. I was on a conference call last night, and this leading policy guru out of Washington was saying, in the last 100 years, we may have had 1, 2, or possibly 3 of these major disruptions, but never 4. And so this really does represent this unique time that we're in. And so we'll share Ed's story, and we'll talk about and use the theme of pivoting, because he certainly had to pivot during his whole life. So Edward Lowe, the man, the inventor of kitty litter and tidy cat, he had a great sense of humor. He said, I put dirt in the bag, and he was proud throughout his lifetime to be a number 1 in a number 2 industry. He didn't just invent the product, he grew it into the market leader. He maintained that leadership throughout his life. Cat litter today is a $3 billion industry. Ed was an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, 170 patents, copyrights, trademarks. I mean, he had a very fertile mind. And he really did live the entrepreneurial story. He and his wife, Darlene, created the Ed Lowe Foundation here in Cassopolis, where Colleen and I are today, and where we run our programs out of. Ed said he was like a beagle chasing rabbits. I mean, he couldn't help it. He got up every day, his engine ran hot. And so in early years, like a lot of entrepreneurs, he put 60,000 miles on the car. He was going to cat shows and pet stores, tenacious, hardworking, driven, but took him away from his family, all of those issues, probably 10 years before he reached his first million in sales. But once he got there, brick walls. Colleen talked about this. What we learned at the foundation, Ed certainly represented this. Again, here's a guy that never went to college. A local guy, always stayed local. Managing growth is difficult. And Ed had his hands on all the levers. He was putting fires out every day. He continued to play all the roles: manager, leader, visionary, chief and bottle wash cook, all the things. Constantly frustrated with his team. He called them the yeah buts and the shirts and the skins. Didn't always believe that they saw his vision and was trying to work against him. And he felt it was lonely on top. He needed help. He didn't know where to go. He wasn't always understood. And again, he was fortunate somehow to find a way through those brick walls in his lifetime. And we'll talk about that. Major pivots in his life for him was vertical integration. Ed, again, being an entrepreneur, he thought he was in the pet business. And so he tried a lot of different products. He was introducing pet products, pet stores. He was buying parakeets and trying to breed them, thinking he was in the pet business. He actually went to some peer group at one time, and somebody made the comment, Ed, you're not in the pet business. You're in the clay business. You're in the mining business. This is what you did. And that was a major aha moment for him. And so he vertically integrated, started going out buying clay deposits and clay manufacturing facilities. And that was a major adjustment for him that really allowed him to take the next step in next level of growth. Once he really took a major strategic pivot around what his core business strategy was. And so this whole concept of what is your core business strategy and what is it that you do? And so that was the first. Second major pivot for Ed was product differentiation. He was in a rapidly changing marketplace. He called it a near-death experience. Customers were changing. His competition was getting greater. So his whole business dynamic was really a challenge. And in particular, grocery stores were coming online and they were selling product cheaper. So he was losing his core customer, the pet store, and he had to pivot. And what he did was he created another product, Tidy Cat, that would be a low-end, low-margin product, and he would keep a boutique kitty litter project for pet stores and veterinarians. And that staved off a real crisis. And so it was a major pivot. Third major pivot in his life, next slide, was he had a marketing panache, and he innovated dirt. He instituted this plan of continuous innovation and process improvement. And so not only doing things like innovating around dust-free and odor control, he kept his dominance in the marketplace by continuing to innovate and think about how he was going to innovate and differentiate his product in the market. Not only that, he was one of the first CEOs of a company to put his own face on a national advertising campaign. So he was ahead of its time in that category also. I think as we look back, his fourth major pivot was this enduring culture and building a team, putting a team together and building a team to last. And again, this, don't know if Ed consciously did all these things. He did them though, and they worked out. He knew he had to do some things. And so recognizing that he couldn't keep his hands on all the levers, recognizing that he had to build a team. He was very fortunate to put a quality team together. And again, once he did that, that fourth and significant pivot really allowed Kitty Litter to grow dramatically and maintain his market leader. He put a focus on quality. He created a process, what he called green hat tours. This was very simple, but very effective, where he put his own staff from his company with green hats and lab coats, and they went throughout the organization and do these unannounced inspections. And so he had people from different parts of the organization evaluating other parts of the organization and just trying to, again, ensure that they were doing quality control and keeping the place high quality. He put family as a cultural, and that was family to him was the employees. And so he was exceptional at treating these people. And then pride, he was proud of not only his business, but he was proud of his opportunity that was given to him in this country. He was a real patriot. And then he ended up being a real advocate for entrepreneurs. He called entrepreneurs an endangered species, and he felt that they were underserved and under-recognized. And so he very aggressively did a neat thing in his life. He wanted to give back, recognizing the challenges that he went through, recognizing that growing a business is difficult, especially growth businesses. Recognized that he didn't have a lot of help at a time when he needed it, that it's lonely at the top. He recognized that he learned best from other entrepreneurs, those that were doing some of the things that he was doing. And so those principles continue to guide us. 25 years ago, the Edward Lowe Foundation actually was created in 1985, funded in 1995. I'd say for the last 12 years, we've been really focused on the second stage entrepreneur for the very reason that I mentioned: underserved, under-recognized for the value of what they contribute, not only to this country, but to the states that they're in and to the local communities that they're in. So we're working with our partners like GrowFL. They're one of the national models for how to support and prop up and support second stage companies. And so we really appreciate all that's going on in Florida. Tammy, what you do. And let me just close by recognizing you companies that are going through these challenging times of uncertainty. We want to recognize you for what you do and really thank you. And we continue to hope to be a strong partner to help you as you deal with these challenging times. I really appreciate being with you today. Thank you.